Thank you very much, Tomorrow.City USA, for having us, and to such a wonderful crowd here. Really appreciate everyone taking the time today. It's an absolute honor to be here with Secretary Scott Turner of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I've been very fortunate and blessed to know Scott for several years, including serving in the first Trump administration from 2017 to 2021, whereby Secretary Turner served as the executive director of the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Council, which for many of you may know was the interagency executive branch group focused on the Opportunity Zones initiative. And so that's where we're going to start our conversation today, Mr. Secretary. So in that light, how has the Opportunity Zones program been successful in your eyes?
Well, thank you, Fonz, and it's good to see everyone, albeit I can't see you very well because the lights are really bright, but I know you're beautiful. But thank y'all for being here, and I'm so grateful to be here with my dear friend and brother, Alfonso Costa, Jr. You know, the Opportunity Zones were a transformative and are a transformative policy initiative. As a part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2018, the Opportunity Zones thus far have brought in about $100 billion of investment to our distressed communities across America, urban, tribal, and rural communities. About 400,000 units of new housing have been built. Home values inside of Opportunity Zones have increased about 3.4%, so rents did not. They remained the same, so they were affordable. Also, about 500,000 jobs have been created inside of Opportunity Zones. And the stat that I love, all the stats and all of the accomplishments, but the one that really stands out to me is 1 million people have been lifted out of poverty, Fonz, in Opportunity Zones. As you know, Fonz and I have worked together all of these years, in particular in the first Trump administration with Dr. Ben Carson. Fonz really was the professor, the teacher for me for Opportunity Zones. We traveled around the country together. But when you see people lifted out of poverty and their life trajectory changes, that really is a blessing to me, to see people's lives change and to see families' lives change from generation to generation. And so I'm very, not just proud, but really blessed how Opportunity Zones have really transformed our country.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Secretary. And on that point, I know you mentioned the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from the first Trump administration. Now with the One Big Beautiful Bill that was signed into law in July of 2025, the biggest tax cut for the working families of America in modern American history. Tell us about what your vision is in terms of where you think the Opportunity Zones program is going, given the permanency vis-a-vis the One Big Beautiful Bill and its enhanced focus on rural areas.
Absolutely. You know, being here in Florida, in West Palm and Palm Beach, you know, we were here a year ago, and I've been here many times, in particular for Opportunity Zone sites and projects. Uni Towers last year, I visited a $61 million project with 250 units of affordable housing, which could not have happened unless it was for Opportunity Zones. And so now you see with the One Big Beautiful Bill and Opportunity Zone policy becoming permanent, it's projects like Uni Tower and others around our country that now have the opportunity to even become better, new projects, existing projects. And the beautiful thing I like about this is that the Opportunity Zone initiative will outlast us. You always want to do something not just for legacy purpose, but to do something that outlasts you, that will be a benefit, if you will, for those that are coming behind you. And that's how I see the Opportunity Zones. When you look at the rural aspect of Opportunity Zones now with a 30% step up in basis, we want to concentrate on urban, tribal, but we really want to concentrate more on the rural aspect of our country, because 30% step up in basis is one thing, but 40% of Opportunity Zones are in rural areas. And so when you think about operating businesses, you think about new entrepreneurs, you think about housing, multifamily, single family, duplex, manufactured housing. The rural aspect of this is something that I want to communicate to our country, investors, entrepreneurs around, to not lose focus of our rural communities, because we can literally build ecosystems, if you will, inside of our rural communities to keep that next generation there so they can live, work, and play in those beautiful towns and cities around our country. And so I'm very excited with the One Big Beautiful Bill. And, tax day is tomorrow, and so not only will people benefit, from this really transformative policy that the president signed into law, which is a great blessing to our country, but opportunity zones will go beyond for tomorrow and generations to come.
Again, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's a very special and important time in the opportunity zone space, given just last week, the U.S. Department of the Treasury released the approximately 25,000 eligible census tracts for Opportunity Zones 2.0, which will come into effect in January, of which approximately 6,000 plus will ultimately be designated and certified at the governor level and then given to the U.S. Department of the Treasury for final certification. But I know whether it's Mayor James here in West Palm Beach and other local leaders across the entire state of Florida, that they'll be working in earnest with local leaders, having these community gatherings and convenings, right, which you and your team do such a phenomenal job hosting, in order to really understand what is the vision, what are the goals, what are the needs, what are the desires of the existing community in order to really revitalize what has historically been neglected or disinvested. And so it's a very exciting time in that regard.
Absolutely. And, and thank you, Fonz. We have our team at HUD, including our regional administrators, in every state around the country that, we want to host roundtables. And HUD is a great convener. And we are using our platform to convene stakeholders around the country in every community, including our regional administrators, to bring in stakeholders to teach about opportunity zones, to learn about opportunity zones, to ideate together, to strategize together, to identify problems, if you will, of blight and poverty in said communities, and then come up with strategies for long-term sustainability. And so I'm really, I was excited the first term. I'm even more excited this term, just because I know what opportunity zones have done and can do in the future.
Absolutely. So housing affordability has become a major topic of discussion for the entirety of the first year of the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. What do you perceive to be the biggest barriers to building affordable housing in this country, and how is the team at HUD working to resolve those issues and those challenges?
Great question. So, we want to make it easier to build and easier to buy. The regulatory environment in our country has literally crippled construction and development. From a federal standpoint, yes, y'all can clap on that because it's true. The regulatory environment has really been burdensome. And so we've been very intentional about tearing down burdensome regulations and red tape and bureaucracy, making it easy for developers to develop and builders to build. And now, with the new executive order that the president signed to take down barriers and increase competition for more people to be able to receive mortgage loans, if you will, the rigor is still the same. These are credit-worthy people. But to bring back hometown lenders, community banks back to the table to increase competition so that those low to moderate income families inside of rural communities can now have access to mortgages. And so we want to tear down these barriers, not only in the mortgage space and the lending space, but also in the building space. For instance, at HUD, and this is a whole of government approach, federal, state, and local. At HUD, one of the first actions we took was to tear down the affirmatively further and fair housing rule that essentially made HUD a national zoning board. It was a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape for those that are working on a local level, and not one house was built as a result of the affirmative further and fair housing rule. And so we took this rule down to restore the control and the flexibility back to localities, because Washington doesn't know the communities around America like communities know their own needs and their own unique opportunities that they have. And so giving this control back, giving this flexibility back to the localities, we believe will unleash the ingenuity, the creativity, and people on the local level who have their hands to the plow to be able to build. And so as I travel around the country, I've been encouraging, and our team has been encouraging localities, mayors and planning and zoning and states, take inventory of your regulatory environment and see what it is that's causing development to be difficult, what's causing construction not to happen. Fonz, $100,000 in regulatory costs to the price of a single-family home is $100,000 in regulations today. A new report just came out. That's not sustainable. And during the Biden administration, they had the green energy mandates that add $31,000 per project. That's not sustainable. It doesn't make it affordable. Matter of fact, it drives up the the cost. And so we want to bring that down so that the average age to buy a first-time home buyer is not 40. Did y'all know that? The average age now for a first-time home buyer is 40. We have to bring that down. So we have to bring the cost down and bring the supply up. And so that's what we're working on at HUD.
And Secretary Turner, you obviously have a very unique perspective given that people see the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as just another executive branch agency with an $80+ billion annual budget that's comprised of various grant programs, right, Section 8 vouchers, things of that nature. But also often missed in the discussion is that under Secretary Turner's purview and leadership is the FHA program. And that program office oversees nearly $1 trillion of multifamily mortgage insurance that builds a lot of the really essential, affordable, and workforce housing throughout this great country, but also approximately $2 trillion of single-family home insurance for facilitating a lot of first home buyers having a chance at that American dream that you mentioned. And so it's a really critical, unique perspective that you have in the landscape, especially where we are at this juncture in American history. In light of that, Mr. Secretary, again, 1 year into your tenure as a cabinet member, 12th in line to the president, really incredible and always humbling to sit next to you and say that. What are your goals for the remainder of your tenure with your team at HUD, and how do things such as manufactured housing play a role in accomplishing those goals?
Well, Alfonso, I really appreciate that. You know, it is very humbling, and I will say this to the crowd. I'm humbled to sit in this seat and this chair as a servant leader of HUD. You know, I'm from Richardson, Texas. And, you know, to be able to serve the American people is a great honor for me. And at HUD, we have returned HUD back to its mission-minded focus. Prior to us coming in, you know, in the NFL, we have this thing called game film. And so I watched the film of HUD over the last 4 years, and I said, well, there's a lot of things we need to change, a lot of things we need to correct in order to return to the mission-minded focus. And so we are laser-focused on our mission and on the people that we serve. And so we've been taking inventory of every program office at HUD to make sure that your hard-earned dollars, the American taxpayer dollars, are going to the people that they're supposed to be going to accomplish the mission that it's supposed to accomplish. And so, and a big part of that is to cut red tape, to attack and to eradicate the waste and the fraud and the abuse at HUD. Again, that's American taxpayer dollars, to make sure that, that Americans in our country are receiving as it pertains to housing, the temporary hand up that they need. And so part of my job as a secretary is to lead that effort. And we have a wonderful team at HUD that is helping in this. So to cut the red tape, to take down the bureaucracy, to take down the barriers, also the innovation and technology. We have a CFO, you know, Irv, at HUD that is very technology, AI, and all these things driven. He understands that technology is the way. We just had our innovative housing showcase last summer, and we saw 3D housing. We saw cabins. We saw multifamily, single family, manufactured housing. You know, when you think about manufactured housing of old, that is nothing about what manufactured housing is of today. It's beautiful. The technology is tremendous. We had one of the homes that were at an innovative housing showcase had a garage. Another one had an outdoor living area. And so manufactured housing is the way to the future as it pertains to filling that gap of the housing need that we have. About 22 million Americans live in manufactured housing around our country. So that and modular housing, I believe going forward, will be a big player in the industry as you talk about housing and some of our priorities.
Thank you for that, Mr. Secretary. So we're obviously here in the great state of Florida, more specifically South Florida. I know this room was full with a lot of visionary leaders. We were just backstage with Mr. Steve Ross, who has done a phenomenal job, he and his team here in the city of West Palm Beach and all throughout the country, really. I know we have other real estate titans, really, here today, including Art Falcone, CEO of my company, Falcone Group. You have Art Falcone, Jose Bichetti. You have NR Investments, the Uni Tower that you mentioned, Black Salmon, other really just phenomenal leaders in their communities that not only think about the built environment from a residential standpoint, but also what they're doing in terms of retail, job creation, economic growth, helping to facilitate school capacity, things of that nature, infrastructure, you name it. Given that you have the honor of traveling the entire country, we're very fortunate enough to have you here today and for the past several days here in Florida. What do you view as the promised trajectory of Florida and South Florida in particular, and why?
Well, I think you hit on such wonderful qualities of Florida, and the first part is the people that are here, and a lot of you are in this business that are in the room today. And to me, I love Florida. I'm from Texas, and I know we compete a lot, but I want to see every state, in particular those that are doing it the right way, to be successful. And Florida is one of the fastest growing states in our country. It's business friendly, it's family friendly, it's faith friendly, no income tax friendly, right? And so you have great sports team. We were just with Mr. Ross, who is one of the legendary developers, but also a wonderful man in his own right, and still going. And there's many of you here in the room who I have met. And so I think Florida is a catalyst, if you will, for development and revitalization, for opportunity zones, utilizing the opportunity zone tool. And I would encourage all of the entrepreneurs, all the business men and women here, the elected officials. We were just with Mayor James, who understands and has a great vision, planning and zoning. Those of you that are in here, the stakeholders in the room, to take inventory and see, are we using every available tool? What is the regulatory environment? Are we building coalitions? Are we building public-private partnerships? In particular, in opportunity zones, public-private partnerships is what makes it run, and that's the magic behind it. Community leaders, faith leaders, education leaders, entrepreneurs, the elected officials coming together to revitalize those communities that need to be revitalized. And so I think Florida is in a tremendous position, and has been and will continue to be, because I think you have the right people here. And so I'm excited about the days ahead for the great state of Florida.
Yeah, I think it's no coincidence. You have institutions like Vanderbilt University planting flags here. You have companies like Blackstone coming from New York City. You have Citadel coming from Chicago. You have really some of the most prominent real estate developers and owners like Gatsby coming down from New York City here as well. It's really encouraging, Mr. Secretary. I know we're wrapping up here soon. One of my favorite things I like to ask the Secretary when we have the chance to do these types of one-on-one conversations is to ask him a little bit about his background, because it is so nuanced and differentiated in comparison to not only the cabinet as it exists today, but really anyone who I've had the great fortune of meeting in my life. And so the name of this conference is Tomorrow.City, USA. And so as we think about tomorrow in the future, I think it's really important that we reflect on the past and what's gotten us there. And so in that vein, Mr. Secretary, I'm going to ask you, and the audience will soon understand this in a couple minutes, what is the importance of 4.2 seconds to you? 4.2 seconds.
Well, thank you, Fonz. You know, it's hard to tell your life story in such a short amount of time. But 4.2 seconds for me is the reason why, part of the reason why, and God's wonderful grace, why I'm sitting before you. When I grew up in a home with my mother and my father for my first 10 years of my life. But divorce ravaged our family, and other things, violence and chaos and things of that nature. I love my mother and father, and they're doing very well today. But back then, it wasn't so well. And so on the day that my mother and father were divorced and my father left our house, I was standing on the porch with my mother, and she was crying and very upset, obviously, and battered. And, you know, she had experienced a lot of violence. And, you know, the Lord put two things in my heart on that day. Number one, my family unit was fractured and would never be the same. But number two, he gave me a dream in my heart. And I told my mother on that day, I was 10, I was standing on the front porch. I said, Mom, one day I'm going to play in the NFL, and I'll take care of you. Now, here I am, a little boy. I'm playing pee-wee football, and I see my mother, who's very brokenhearted and battered, and my father was the same. And God so graciously gave me a dream and a vision. And I told my mom, I'm going to play in the NFL. She said, you can do it. She said, trust the Lord, work hard. And so fast forward, I'm at the University of Illinois. I came out of Texas. I was a running back, 5'9", 172 pounds, 18 years old, going to the Big Ten in Illinois. And if you don't know anything about football, the Big Ten, there's a lot of big brothers in the Big Ten. And so being a 5'9" running back at 172 pounds is not the best lot. And so they switched me from position to position over the next 3 years, all on the offense, running back, receiver, slot, and I really couldn't get on the field. I really couldn't get a hold to start playing on the field consistently. And I had a dream to go to the NFL. It's 3 years, now I'm a junior. But during this time, I was also a track athlete, and I ran a 400-meter dash, and I was fortunate enough to win the Big Ten a couple of times and travel around the world running the 400. I was always in shape, indoor and outdoor track and football. Well, my senior year, the coaches came to me, Alfonso, they said, we're going to switch you from offense to defense. I've never played defense a day in my life. I've always ran forward. I'm a running back. Are y'all with me? And so I was very, very uncomfortable at this time. I have 1 year left as a senior. You're going to switch me from what I've known my whole life to something that I've never known ever before. Are y'all following me? Raise your hand if you've ever been uncomfortable. What happens when you're uncomfortable? You grow. Complacency will rob you. And so he gave me an opportunity to be uncomfortable. And so I said yes, and I switched to defensive back, cornerback. I didn't even know how to stand like a corner, let alone know how to tackle somebody that's running at me full speed. And so I watched the people that were in front of me, and I learned from them. And then I would stay after practice until the lights came on. And they had to tell me to go home because I was just trying to learn how to backpedal, just how to learn how to be comfortable in a stance. Are y'all following me? And so I had an opportunity that spring to compete for a job on the team. Nobody expected me to do it. Nobody expected me to play. I'm a senior, never played corner. Well, long story short, I ended up winning the starting position at corner. I played the entire season, had a couple of interceptions, did good. We had the #1 defense in the country. 1 year, and the NFL Combine came. Y'all ever heard of the Combine? Where the kids go show off all the owners and the player personnel? If you want to go to the NFL, you want to go to the Combine. That's the dream. Well, I didn't get an invitation to the Combine. I looked at my mailbox for 2 weeks, and it never came, my invitation. Y'all ever look for something and it never came? Yes? Expecting something and it never showed up? Well, that was me. Now everybody's saying, hey, your dream's not going to happen. You didn't even get invited to the Combine. They don't know who you are. You're a small guy. You only played corner for 1 year. It's not going to happen. You know what? Be careful about telling everybody your dreams. And sometimes you're going to have people to tell you that you can only do so much. Well, I was that guy. And so my buddies went down to the Combine, and I went and started running stadium steps at Memorial Stadium. That was our stadium in Champaign, Illinois. 3 tiers, sat about 60,000 people. February, ice cold. I'm running steps till I can't feel my legs. My legs are numb. I fell one time, the last tier of the steps, and I fell, hit my head, hit my bottom, and had the opportunity to stay down because no invitation, nobody cares. Here I am, just me alone, 25-degree weather. Now I'm on the ground bleeding. I could have stayed, but I got up and I kept running. Well, a week later, 22 teams came to the University of Illinois for a pro day. They said they wanted to see the guys who were at the Combine, wanted to see them again. And my agent asked if I could run for them, work out for them. They said, sure, we don't care. We don't even know who he is. And so they said, hey, guys, let's line up. We're going to run a 40-yard dash. And, I just said, okay, that's great. And so they let all the prospects go, and everybody ran. And then, y'all, my time came. And I stood on the starting line. And they said, hold on, man, ho. Who are you? Y'all ever felt like that before? And I said, man, I'm Turner. They said, okay, whatever. Come on, like I'm wasting their time. But what they didn't see is me standing on that porch with my mama or running those stupid stadium steps in ice cold. And y'all, I stood on the starting line. I looked to the finish line. I didn't see 22 men. I saw 22 stopwatches. And I said, I'm going to get from here to there as fast as I can. And I took off. And by the time I blinked 2 times, I was done. And when I crossed the finish line, they started hollering, whoa! And they looked at the watch. They were like, son, where have you been? And I said, I looked in my mailbox. For 2 weeks, y'all, I read a 4.24 on that day. Yes.
That's very fast.
And so that's the significance of 4.24. I was 23 years old on that day. Do you remember how old I was when I was standing on the porch with my mother? 10. 10 to 23 is how many years? 13 years of preparation for 4 seconds. Changed my life. I want to encourage you. Don't give up. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable, because those are the times that the Lord is growing you. Don't be afraid to do something that you've never done before. Take it from your nephew. I'm sitting here by God's grace and by not being afraid. So, Fonz, thank you. Anytime I get to share that is a blessing to me, and I hope that it encourages you, because I already know there's some of you in here now that are going through an uncomfortable situation. Don't be afraid. Go through it, learn as much as you can, hone your craft, because you're going to be on the starting line soon, and they're going to be surprised at the time you run. God bless you.
Thank you.